Welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're finally going to get on the 12 scale build. Started with getting the front end laid out. I'm still a little bit rusty. It's been a minute since I've built a pan car, a couple of years anyways. Although it's pretty straightforward, and like most competition kits, they do not come with any instructions, so you just have to be good at it. You have to figure it out. So we're going to start with the front end, and then we'll work our way around. I'm going to have to do a little bit of Googling on the shocks. I'm, again, a little rusty on building those little side shocks. So let's dig into the front end and see how far we get. All right, it don't look like much, but I got everything laid out, kind of a left and a right, just by memory. So let's get to putting some screws in here. All right, we're back. I just checked the pictures on their website. Like I said, there's no instructions, just trying to go off of memory and experience here. And my assumptions were correct, but just wanted to double check. It seems like the tolerance is really tight, which is good. I'd rather it be too small than too big. All right, there's one arm set up. We just got to put the pivot ball in here, upper control arm, and there's a pin that goes through that, 2 set screws to hold it in place. Very simple. We'll go ahead and put the upper control arm. I'm just guessing. I'm going to go. I'm going to go to the middle hole. It's got 3 settings, and of the 3, it does change to camber gain. These little set screws right here are these little cap head screws. They're tiny. It's 0.5, and you will strip a head out before you know it if you just slip one time. One too many. But they are already pre-tapped, and they hold the pin in place here. And you adjust your caster here, and that's what the set screws on the top are for. I do have this little press tool. I hadn't used it in a minute. And this will press the pivot ball in place. One way presses it on, other way removes it. So there you go. Pop. This is our camber adjustment. I'm going to go ahead and run it all the way in. I do have a HBiII front end machine, so I can, we'll set it up after we get it built. We'll go ahead and give it all the camber. All right, there's our upper and lower control arm. Now all we have to do is run the steering block and the kingpin through it. All right, there is one semi-complete front end. I'm going to put a spring and a spring bucket. And a pesky little E-clip. Try not to shoot it across the room, as it will. Go ahead and tighten this down. All right, there's right front suspension complete. We will we'll have to go back and make some adjustments. It looks like this ball cut may have to get cut down, because I still got a lot of positive camber just by eyeballing it. So we may have to shorten this upper ball, and just by a little bit, just so we have some adjustment in and out. So we'll do that once we get it on the car. All right, we're back. I got the front end completed. I ended up cutting off roughly about 1/8 inch, or probably about 4 millimeters of that ball stud off the top A-arm, just so we could have some camber adjustment. With the ball end on its full length, it bottomed out before we had any kind of a camber adjustment. So it's still got plenty of threads on there. We still got way more than we need, but without cutting them, you don't get enough negative camber. We still got plenty of adjustment to get it out. So there you go. There's a complete front end. Titanium screws will be a future upgrade. we're not going to torque these down real tight because you don't want to cinch the aluminum threads into the aluminum block. Oh, we dropped the shim. Found it! Snug and snug. Alright, there's our front end on our HBiII. Again, we don't have instructions, we got bags of parts. T-plate. Rear pod, pretty cool, carbon fiber motor mount. Actually, it's, I'm not sure how that works. It's aluminum and carbon fiber. It has their speed tube in there. The only thing that I don't like, which is fine, it is a 12 scale, so your ride height is going to be pretty much determined with your tire size. There is no adjustment on the rear ride height. So we're going to run them full size out of the pack because we're going to run breakout. So we're not concerned about the tire size or ride height so much. But yeah, I'm not sure what the thinking was there. I'm assuming it was for just having it a true axle, 100%. And the new pod has adjustments. It has like 6 or 8 adjustments, goes up and down. I'm sure this works fine like it is. Yeah, we'll just have to play with tire size if we have to. All right, this is pretty straightforward. Spring steel T-plate. The pivot ball goes right in. Everything's machined, fits really nice. The old school days, these were 2 pieces. They were sandwiched together, and I've seen so many people build them wrong, and they would sandwich the ball and put the top and bottom piece of the housing and put the T-plate in the middle. Then you'd have a lot of slop in your rear T-plate. But these things are machined together, and it's a no-brainer. You just put it through the top, run your 4 screws in the bottom. Sorry about all the throat clearing. I had a cold, not really a cold, but I had a little bit of a bug about a week ago. Still got a little congestion. I noticed that in the last video. I was editing out a bunch of ums. Alright, there's our completed T-plate. And here's our shims. And how detail oriented is that? You probably can't see it, but they machined the center of that shim right there to lose weight instead of making it just a solid piece. Probably saved, who knows, thousandths of a gram, but it all adds up, I guess. They put steel where it matters. Steel screws are down low, and they're in a more stressful area. T-plate's held on with steel screws. The pivot balls are steel screws, and the bottom of the pod looks like it's all steel. So everything else up higher is aluminum. There's our completed pod. We got to put the ball studs in for the shocks, and then we can go ahead and put it on the car. Did it again, didn't I? All right, there's our completed pod now. We'll go ahead and install that on the chassis. Very simple, just 2 little 440 screws, 1/16 driver. It'll be these last 2 holes. These in the center will probably be for our shock mount, our center shock. If you can't get them tight enough, it does have a hex drive through the top, so you can tighten it down that way also. Because these screws are short enough, they don't come through and protrude into where you would stick a driver in. Alright, now we're looking like a car. We got a fully functional pod. We got our front end together. Up next is, we can start doing some of the superficial stuff on the chassis, like the, well, I wouldn't say superficial, just the Nerf wing bumpers. And I'm going to hold the shocks off to the end because I want to do a little bit more refresher course on shocks. So we'll leave those to the end. Again, steel screws. This is a higher impact area for when you crash the car. Oh, let's get a driver that'll fit that before we scratch those up.
Out of battery.
Oh, my speaker's dying. That's okay. I'm not listening to music anyways. Can't do that and work. Not when you're making the YouTubes. Bumper. There's a bumper installed. No brainer. 2 screws, 2 nuts. Nerf wing and rear shock tower. Now this might take a minute because it only going to go one way, so that ought to be pretty simple. It's hard to do hardware checks. I'm not sure exactly what all we need. These will be standoffs. So it looks like we got 4 standoffs. These body posts. Little inconsistency on our blue. That's really blue. The longer ball studs are for their side shocks. These tiny short ones, I have no idea what that would be for. They're probably for the body post, most likely. These will screw the shock tower, so there should be 4 of those. 2 nuts for the ball studs, 2 nuts for the Nerf wing, 2 screws, 4 screws for the 4 standoffs. The only thing I don't see in that bag is our 2 screws for our Nerf wing. We got 2 of the larger nuts, and we need 2 more countersunk screws. We got 3 left over from the front, but they're not going to be long enough. By the time it goes through the chassis, and yeah, by the time it goes through the chassis and all, it's not going to have room for a nut with those little short screws. So we can proceed with the shock tower. All right, we're going to leave those just loose so they can move around a little bit, just tight enough to hold them in place. Don't want to get anything torqued down yet because they're not perfectly straight. I'm going to hop off and double check. I'm going to look at the pictures and see if they have a picture of the HBiII on our website. And but I feel pretty confident that wait a minute. Okay. I stand corrected. I felt pretty confident that the big end went that way, so it looks like it only fits one way. Okay. We'll still want to double check it to make sure I got the standoffs on the right side, because they may need to go, shock tower may need to go this way a little bit, so we'll see. Let me go check that out and we'll be right back. All right, my assumptions were correct. I did have the screws on backwards, but they do not have a picture of an HBiII on their website. They just have the new car. And this is the only way that this shock tower will fit on this car. So we're going to go ahead and go with it. All right, shock tower installed. Shock studs go on the back side. We're going to just throw it in a generic position. Don't know where exactly I want to put them, so we're going to go 1 hole down. All right, we poked around in the toolbox. We found a couple of screws. If you're a stickler for everything matching, this car might drive you a little crazy because a lot of the blues are different shades of blue. And we're going to have 2 silver screws holding our Nerf wing on, because that's what I've got. They're not aluminum. They're like a zinc coated steel screw. Every time I go to the hobby shop, if I don't buy anything, I'll just buy some random hardware just to have some stuff for situations like this. And turns out I've got 2 440 screws, but they're silver. Down to building the diff and building the dreaded shocks. So it won't be long, we'll have a roller. So I'll go ahead and build the diff. That way we got all the axles. We can at least put wheels on it. And we'll proceed to build shocks. And then we got to figure out how to mount this body. So let me hop off. We'll sort all the parts out for the diff, and we'll hop back on. We got the diff sorted out. We got shims, we got our diff balls, our hubs, wheel screws, a hub screw, D-rings, the bearings. It comes with a spur gear. It's a 100 tooth, 64 pitch. I believe that'll work for our application. We're going to build this to run at breakout speeds at turn and burn and or bump and run. And with that, we need the biggest spur gear that we can get that will work with the 12 scale tires. And that's not much smaller than an actual 12 scale tire, especially if you true them down any. So we're going to go with the 100 to start with. Again, we're just going to go for breakout speeds. We're not trying to set this thing up for any kind of particular class, because we're going to be running a 2-cell in it, and a 2-cell 12 scale would be ballistic if you run it full speed. So we're going to build it around the 100. If that don't work, we'll go up or down depending on what we got to do. But we'll go ahead and build it with the 100. We got a flanged bearing, flanged down. If I'm doing this wrong, let me know. It's been a minute. Let's get a little bit of grease on your finger. Pick the balls up, snap them into place, and it kind of lubes them at the same time. You don't have to fill every single hole in the spur gear up, but I'm just going on the outer ring. That was exciting, wasn't it? We got all of our diff balls in, just the outer band. There's another set of holes in the center. Don't need to do that because there's no, it's not going to ride on that. It'll actually be worse. It'll actually get on the race of the axle and not work properly. Simple enough. We'll tighten that up off camera because I'm going to tap this. It's a little bit too small. It's a nylon nut, so it kind of self-threads itself, but I'm going to run a tap through it, and we'll be right back. But there's your completed diff, minus our washer or our diff nut. All right, we're back, and I corrected it. I had the flange bearing on the spur gear. Actually, it should be unflanged on the inside of the hub, and then the outside of the hub flanged in order for the diff to work properly with the diff washer and without putting shims in it. And there we go. We are completed now. I'm going to start with 2 shims on the back side. The shims are for your width. So I'm going to start with 2. I don't know exactly what a 12 scale oval car should be. So we're going to start with it kind of generic where we can add, and so no big deal there. So we'll put 2 on the inside, 2 on the outside, and adjust if we need to, and we'll go from there. But everything feels silky smooth now, and yeah, it's been 30 years, but I still make rookie mistakes like so. All right, putting the axle in is pretty straightforward. We put our flange bearing in the speed tube here, and then we'll put another one on the other side. No brainer, super easy. Everything fits super nice on this car, super tight, which is a good thing. We're just going to go 2 shims. That leaves us 4 more that were provided with the kit. And then we'll put our hub on. Yeah, we may need to add a shiv or 2 just for wheel clearance. I'm not sure. I need to put a wheel on there because that hub is right against the pod. So I'm going to run a screw in the hub and cinch that down, and then I'll break out the tires and see how they fit. We may have to make the car wider just initially, just so the tires fit. So let's get a screw in there and we'll pop right back. All right, we're going to start with the spec foams, BSRs. Okay, the back of the wheel is pretty flat, so we might be okay here. Oh yeah, all day long. Fits fine, no rubbing. 10 scale, you got a little bit more wheel on the backside, so that's what I was concerned about. If I had any more wheel, it was going to rub. So yeah, we got room to grow because the wheel's still in a little bit on the chassis right there, so we got another 1/8 inch. We could come out if we need to, probably. Depending on the body also, the truck body, I'm not sure how wide it is. But anyways, there we go. Let's get this thing tidied up a little bit, and then we'll proceed to build shocks. Yay, fun part. But yeah, there's our car. It's looking like a car. That didn't take long at all. Even being rusty and having to rebuild the diff 3 times because I just happened to have a little foggy brain there. Forgot where the bearing goes. But anyway, let's snug that up, and we'll start building some shocks. I'm going to get this thing rolling before we build the shocks. These are 10 scale steering blocks. It has a little molded line right there, and it has 2 sets of holes. I cut it off just past the line and left the inside hole because your 12 scale wheels will not fit over the full length. And similar to running rubber tires on a 10 scale car because it's a smaller diameter wheel. So we had to make clearance, and we got clearance now. Like I said, we cut it right to that line right there, just beyond it, and I left a little bit of meat there. And now we got perfect clearance. You see in there, look there, silky smooth. All right, I don't know a good way to show this because everything's so small, but the shock's not super complicated to build like the old school Delta shocks. You got this little cup. We'll put just a drop of oil in it. We've got this little sponge that fills in the cup. We put a little oil in that also. It has a hole in the center. You're building these, you see it. You've done it. Now we've got that little cup. There's our shock piston. We'll run the cup over it with the cup bottom down. Then we got a small nylon washer. And then again, with a little bit of oil on your finger, we'll take the silicone O-ring, and then a larger nylon washer, and then you have a retaining clip. Associated does not make these shocks anymore. I do believe some of the pan card guys have, some of the manufacturers have remade these parts so you can rebuild the shock. And there are other options on these shocks. Then you fill your shock body up. There is a fill line, approximately, I don't know, it's about a 1/4 inch down in it. Anyways, you take this pack. It goes into the shock. Kind of get it placed. And this little plastic tool comes with your shock kit. It has a hole in the center. It's just basically a tool to push it in. And locks that retainer in place. There we go. There's our shock. With slow dampening coming out. A little rebound. I built this one earlier just to get, it's got less rebound on it, but it does have some rebound. Anyways, there's our side shocks. From then on, you just put the shock bottom on. It has 2 set screws on each side. We got our shock bottoms on. You put a ball in, and you got your spring adjuster here. The threads onto the body. You got to put your spring on. Spring. You got to have your screws tightened up all the way. The spring won't go over it. Then your spring collar or adjuster, retainer, whatever you want to call it. Alright, there's your side shock. All we got to do is put the ball studs on, or the ball ends, and then we'll install them on the car and we'll have side shocks. Alright, we're back. Got the ball ends put on. Didn't film that. Nothing exciting there. Got our shocks installed. Once you get your ball ends on, these are straight out of the pack. They don't have to be cut, shortened, lengthened, or anything. Just tighten them all the way down and pop them in place. And there we go. There's side shock action. All we got to do is build the center shock, get it installed, and then we'll proceed to put electronics in it. Get the steering in it, get the motor in it, speed control placed, and we'll have a runner. Just got to get the body mounted. For tonight, we're going to call it a day, and we got to go walk the dog. So we'll proceed with this on Monday night, and this is Wednesday's video, so check it out. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow after work. All right, off camera, I went ahead and built the center shock and installed it. Very simple. It just snaps into a lower, very simple shock mount. Snaps on a ball stud. The shock build, typical shock build, you have a bladder in the cap, you got an O-ring and your adjuster. You got 1 O-ring, 2 washers, and then your shock piston with a 2-hole piston on it. So we built everything with 30-weight oil, just kind of a baseline to start with. And that'll depend on your track conditions and temperature, I would assume. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and get the steering servo in, get the linkages set up. We are going to run a servo saver. We're not going to run direct link steering. And still got to pick up a receiver. We'll run by Anderson RC one night this week and pick up another receiver. And this thing will be ready to run, minus getting the body mounted and painted. All right, just to make things a little bit easier on us, I'm running a tap through the steering blocks and the servo saver. Probably not totally necessary, but it'll make assembly much easier to have these things go ahead and pre-tap them. All right, there's that. Put 2 in our servo saver. Servo choice, we're going to do this R6 Power HD servo. It's a very inexpensive servo. I think they're around 35 bucks. And it's comparable to the Tava. So it's the same size and dimensions wise. And like I said, I heard good things about it. It's Metal Gear, although we are running a servo saver. And it's not a bad looking servo. It's feels like it's got an aluminum case. I believe it does. The back half of the case is aluminum. So get that installed. Not sure what tooth it has. Probably a 23. Oh, Futaba fits it right on it. All right, the servo comes with 2 screws for the servo saver, but I think they're more designed for a servo horn, and the outside diameter of the screw is too big, and it won't fit in the servo saver. So we got another 2.5 millimeter, and we'll run that one down in there. It doesn't have a collar around it, so it will fit. All right, the kit does come with 2 3mm screws. The top screws are metric. The screws that hold to the chassis are standard 440s, but the screws that hold the servo on have a built-on washer, so you don't have to do anything special to mount the servo, and other than leave it loose before you tighten the screw up, because you can't get it in there when it's sideways. All right, there's our servo installed. Super simple, kind of self-explanatory. Just 2 mounts, 2 screws, servo saver. I don't know if this came with the kit, but these are just standard steel turnbuckles. I'm going to dig through my box and see if I got some titanium stuff. I think I do, and if not, we'll end up using these. That's fine. Again, we're going to run this car at breakout speeds. We're not worried about super precision, perfect lightweight stuff. All right, for sake of getting this car built, I do not have any in my toolbox. I thought I had some extra turnbuckles. No biggie. It's easy enough to change out in the future. So we're going to run these standard steel ones, and they will do just fine. Just not as pretty. Not bad for eyeballing it. We are towed in a little bit, but there is our completed chassis with servo installed. Only thing we got to do now is get our receiver, speed control motor, and this baby's ready to run. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the build episode of the Pemberton Raceworks HB3. This car was named after a little boy, Hal Brown III. If you don't know who he is, just simply Google it. There's plenty of videos about him. And we'll get more into that once we get the body painted. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Next episode, we will be mounting and painting the body. And soon after that, we'll be racing this car. We built 2. We built 2 Pemberton cars. We're going to run them together. And hopefully we can debut them together. That's the plan. One of them's going to be well, they're both going to be a special paint job. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, we'll see you next time. I appreciate y'all tuning in. And we'll see you Sunday. All right, I'm back. That was about take 45. I can't get this right. But anyways, please like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Comment. Next up, build series-wise, we're going to build the VRD Carbon. That will be pretty cool, and we're going to take that one out on location and run it. But anyways, look forward to the running video of this coming soon. First off, we got to paint it. So next episode, we'll be painting the body for this. and we'll see you at the track. Thanks.